Today we're taking a look at a nasty anti-environmentalist, a vile and villainous cretin who calls himself Cesspool. Let's talk about him. First, thanks for watching JLS Comics. Hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all of our weekly content. And with that out of the way, let's jump right into our story. Cesspool was born as Vincent D'Alleva in Newton, Massachusetts. He's not named after some old family line here. He's actually named after a Hasbro employee of the same name whose tenure at Hasbro lasted from 1989 until 1999. Vinny, at the time of the figure's release, was a senior brand manager and would rise to become a VP of marketing by the end of his tenure with Hasbro. He worked on marketing and product management for the Hasbro Direct division, played a key role with licensor and figure collector programs, and helped launch the 12-inch G.I. Joe figure business, so it's no wonder they wanted to thank him with a figure immortalizing his name. Leonard Nimoy, Matt Damon, Betty Davis, John Krasinski, Jack Lemmon, Christopher Lloyd, Amy Poehler, Eli Roth, Leonard Bernstein, Isaac Asimov, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Fat Mike, Big Papi, aka David Ortiz, were all born in or lived in Cesspool's hometown of Newton, Massachusetts at one time or another. And when Vinny grew up, graduated college, and entered the workforce, he rather quickly was promoted to CEO of a huge multinational corporation with, as his file card notes, vast holdings in oil refineries, chemical plants, and mills. His personal wealth early on was immense. He would later gloat that by 21, he was already head of a major corporation, had his own Seville Row suits, a Lagonda, and his own conference table. And from that seat of power, he commanded considerable wealth and influence, and so it made him a target of environmental groups that targeted him and his corporation, protesting toxic waste, dumping, and pollution. CEO Vinny also managed to outsmart 7 federal investigation committees who looked into his business practices. In fact, it was in response to these protests and the subsequent investigations that became the catalyst for Vinny's complete evil turn. On his action figure card, it says that they'd built a toxic waste containment area outside of one of Vinny's plants, and while on the scaffolding during a safety demonstration to placate some environmental groups, the scaffolding collapsed and Vinny fell into the containment area, right into a cesspool, and he was burned, scarred, and horribly disfigured. In the comic book continuity, Vinny was frantically trying to destroy evidence as a swarm of federal agents were raiding his office, and so he opened a valve and the toxic sludge splashed up into his face. But there's one more. We'll get to that in a moment. But either way, the poisons more than scarred his face. They seeped through his skull and altered his brain, making him a complete madman and a self-proclaimed genius. So then Vinny took a truly dark turn, shedding his previous self and evolving into a maniacal villain and adopting the name Cesspool for himself. He was almost called Oil Baron, but it was changed partially due to Larry Hama's issue with it. He said that with a name like Oil Baron, it conjures up images of suits and bolo ties and big 10-gallon hats, but the figure rendering looked more like a biker, so to him, it didn't make sense, and his codename became Cesspool. And Cesspool first appeared in Marvel Comics and Larry Hama's A Real American Hero comic book series with issue 123, and a story called The Secret of the Ooze. The Secret of the Sludge. It's also his first cover appearance, though he's relegated to a lower corner box while the cover's taken up by Cobra Commander crawling out of his own cesspool of waste. Cobra Commander cut a deal with Cesspool to set up a weapons-grade sludge plant on Cobra Island for testing, and in the space of a month, Cesspool recruited his own legion of sludge vipers and toxo vipers who helped him build plants all over the island. Cobra Commander had gone off on an anti-G.I. Joe mission in Transcarpathia, leaving Zarana in charge, and she was frantic and infuriated over his encroaching reach of power. So Zarana reached out to Cobra Commander, who told her that he left her in charge and to knock Cesspool down a peg or two. So Zarana took a Hammerhead submersible sea tank and rode out to Cesspool's latest build site to confront him, but she found him up on war scaffolding, channeling his best Roadblock meets Marvel's Cable. He took his cannon and shot Zarana's Hammerhead with weapons-grade sludge, dissolving her metal machine instantly. Zarana managed to jump off the tank just before she too dissolved, and she ran back down the mountain to safety. And laughing hysterically, Cesspool revealed his scheme. Manufacturers pay him to haul away toxic waste and dispose of it, but instead of that, he concentrates the waste, making it even worse, and then sells a weaponized version of it to the highest bidder. He said not only is it legal, but he gets a tax abatement for it. That refers to the first part of his scheme and references some early 90s IRS revenue rulings that gave abatements to cleanup and disposal sites. The second part, the EPA would certainly take issue with based on Surla and later Sarah's Superfund program details. Those federal investigators probably would have had better luck if they went after him under RICO law. In AR-AH issue 125, in a flashback scene, Vinny is seen in his executive office talking with his lackeys. He said they'd crushed the unions, looted the workers' pension funds, inflated stock values, and rigged the employees' football pools, and was looking to skim an additional $30 million US. Their next scheme in this flashback was to loot a new employee savings plan and then convert life insurance policies into comprehensive medical coverage, and then making the work area highly toxic and collect insurance when the employees died, which they said evilly, the quicker the better. So anyway, Cobra Commander got word that Headman was encroaching on Broca Beach at the same time that Cesspool was making moves on Cobra Island. Cobra Commander said, "I'm going to personally perforate his peritoneum." Cesspool then got the center spot on the Triptych-style cover of issue 124, which was appropriate as this story was also called Triptych. G.I. Joe got wind of what Cesspool was doing on Cobra Island and the region, as their spectroscopic and chemical sensors picked up their scent, detecting CFC readings that were off the charts. This was confirmed when the Eco Warriors team battlecoptered to the Gulf of Mexico and picked up the same readings with their joint chemical agent detectors and IR sensors built into their heavily insulated combat suits. I guess that's environmentally friendly, as the battlecopter is powered by energy generated from a pulled zipcord. Kind to the environment, but not kind to battle strategy, as this very non-stealthy approach to their target was quickly detected by numerous anti-aircraft radars. They were painted by radar, and Cesspool was immediately notified of their approach. So the Joe team was supposed to recon an offshore oil rig that Cesspool had converted into a toxo lab, and they were lit up by AAA batteries on the deck of the toxo lab. The Joes couldn't fire back lest they released the chemicals into the water or the air, so they had to disengage and make a tactical withdrawal. Cesspool, who was also on the platform, ordered a Sludge Viper to ventilate the Joes' pension plans, so that Sludge Viper shot Flint's battlecopter with his instant corrosion plasma tox, and Flint went down, crashing onto the deck of the toxo lab. Flint's suit was protected from the substance, but the copter was not. Clean Sweep then rotated down and fired an anti-tox spray at Flint to help him out, while Ozone flew around the toxo lab to provide air cover, fire support, and ground suppression. Flint, when he went down, was able to make a controlled crash on the deck of the toxo lab. When Clean Sweep landed to recover Flint, one of the Toxo Vipers blasted them both with his plasma tox, covering the two Joes with the chemical agent. And down and doused, Cesspool made a charge at the Joes, flanked by his army of Vipers. He said they'd recycle the Joes by dissolving them in the plasma tox tank. Ozone landed behind Cesspool and his Vipers, and now the Cobra agents were caught in a deadly crossfire. The Joes really had to mind that crossfire too. In desperation, Cesspool ordered one of his Vipers to punch some holes in the plasma tox tanks, for they were unhindered by ethics and ecological law, and Cesspool said, "These ecological Pollyannas can't pin us down." The sensor readers on Ozone's weapon were picking up massive amounts of CFCs coming from the tanks, and he said he couldn't neutralize the CFCs with his Ozone replenisher and keep Cobra pinned down at the same time, so Flint said, "Save the Ozone, Ozone." Then, evoking his best Cobra Commander impression, stance and all, Cesspool said that the Joes let political correctness stand in the way of personal survival. "That's the ultimate bad career move," he yelled at them over the sounds of the gunfight. Cesspool and his forces captured two of the Joes, removed their helmets, and kept them at plasma tox gunpoint while Cesspool interrogated Flint. On comms, Flint radioed the still circling Ozone, telling him to go back and get the secret weapon, but he was cut short as Cesspool took Flint and Clean Sweep below decks, removing their communications gear at the same time. So Ozone flew away while Flint and Clean Sweep tried to fight back. They lost that fight, and as a rather loquacious Cesspool looked on, gloating, his Viper beat the Joes with their boots and the butts of their weapons. And Cesspool continued his boastful diatribe while the Vipers dragged the beaten Joes over a bridge spanning the tops of the toxo tanks, and Flint took the opportunity to kick a corroded part of the bridge, which collapsed it and made one of the Vipers fall into the sludge. The Viper's corroded, mutilated hand reached out above the surface of the sludge, his fingers rotted to the bone as Cesspool looked on from above. Cesspool then tied Flint and Clean Sweep up and strung them upside down with a rope and a winch system above the vats. And continuing with his evil gloating, he talked long enough for a G.I. Joe Tomahawk to arrive. But it wasn't an assault force. The G.I. Joe team flew in Mr. Jones from the Attorney General's office to seize all of Cesspool's assets and inform him of the inbound avalanche of injunctions that would result in a veritable death of 1,000 paper cuts. And then it was Flint's turn to gloat. "Too bad those chemicals turned you into a genius and not a lawyer." It's a good one, Flint. With the indictments still pouring in, Cesspool then moved to the Cobra Consulate building in New York City, hanging out in CC's throne room with him and Zorano. Cobra Commander stood over a holographic map, complaining about his paltry holdings, and told Cesspool and Zorano the plan was to expand out into developing nations and into Transcarpathia, which meant getting rid of Destro and his castle. Roadpig said that an attack that threatened US and or G.I. Joe assets would result in a military clapback, and Cesspool agreed with that sentiment, saying it'd be suicidal to risk capital investment in new territories, and that they should instead first locate and destroy the new pit before anything else. Conveniently, Firefly showed up and met with them on Cobra Island, saying he had the location, blueprints, and schematics for the new G.I. Joe pit. And upon confirmation, Cobra Commander then ordered Cesspool and Zorana to launch an all-out attack on Utah, led by the commander himself. However, that was a distraction, so Firefly and his brainwashed ninja forces could blast the volcano on Cobra Island where the freighter full of Cobra traders was buried, in a bid for Firefly to take over Cobra Island. During the initial attack, Cesspool, who remained behind from going to Utah, sounded the alarms and activated a squadron of hiss and paralyzer tanks to deal with the breached freighter assault. Firefly then used his brainwashed ninjas and some older model bats to take over Cobra Island. When Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow broke free of Firefly's zombification and fought back, Cesspool and Zorana agreed to use that distraction to launch their own counterattack. So they rode out on a bright red paralyzer tank with a column of septic tank hiss tank variants, but were defeated, so when Cobra Commander returned from his Utah attack, he saw the devastation. Firefly had Zorana and Cesspool captured and tied up on the roof parapets of the main Cobra stronghold on Cobra Island. And Cobra Commander said that the Utah pit attack was just to test a new radar system that they'd sell to make billions. So in a twist, he said that Firefly could keep the island and Zorana and Cesspool because Cobra Commander don't care. And so Cesspool fell off the board, and off panel, he fell out of favor with Cobra Commander. And this was further confirmed in the America's Elite series. In fact, he was remanded to a prison called the Coffin, though Tomax freed the prisoners. And though Tomax freed the prisoners from the Coffin, he killed Cesspool and a few others that Cobra Commander considered to be loose ends, like Overkill, Vance Wingfield, Headman, and others. But just like Cobra Commander, Hama don't care. So he brought Cesspool back for AR Age issue 219, now published by IDW Publishing, who continued on with their own series but using Marvel's original numbering. Zartan called a meeting at his gas station hideout in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. So he called in the Dreadnoks, including Zorana, along with Big Boa, Crystal Ball, Slice and Dice, and yes, Cesspool as well. They needed to team up to counter Cobra Commander, who'd cast all his freelancers aside in favor of the Red Shadows Black Major and Revanche Robotics. Cesspool then went with the group to Crystal Ball's Psychic Crystal Shop in South Jersey to meet with Destro and Baroness. Cesspool asked, "How can we trust Destro?" To which Destro replied, "Cobra Commander has no sense of honor, but I have the whole history of my clan behind me." In issue 224, they were then at the vacated commercial building called Carob Tree Office Park, Carob being an anagram of Cobra, and he was there, killing time and watching Crystal Ball do magic tricks. Cesspool asked Zartan what they were sitting around for, and Zartan told him he was stalling for time. He wanted to see if Destro's gambit would play out or not. And they watched, horrified, as Cobra Commander blew up Silent Castle. And they all rushed outside before Cobra Commander could blow up the office park, with them inside it, and out in the parking lot, they ended up running into the Crimson Twins. So Cesspool and this team of freelancers then made entry into the Cobra town of Springfield, with Crystal Ball hypnotizing the police officers at the edge of town. So the group let Cesspool out at the Springfield Reservoir so he could squirt some sedatives into the town's water supply, allowing the townfolk to be more susceptible to Crystal Ball's mental control. And that's how Destro, Baroness, Zorana, Roadpig, Big Boa, and the Dreadnoks were able to penetrate to Cobra Commander's throne room where they had Don Moreno as their captive apprentice. And currently, Cesspool's whereabouts are unknown as he remains at large. Voiced by Gary Chalk, Cesspool did make an appearance in a couple episodes of the G.I. Joe animated series, but the season that was put out by Deke, not Sunbow. In part 1 of the Sludge Factor, both the Eco Warriors and Cobra Commander in disguise were among those at a demonstration taking place at the Supergrow Fertilization Factory, where the CEO was showing off their state-of-the-art waste conversion process, which he promised would help end world hunger. Eco Warriors liked that prospect, but Cobra Commander wanted to profit off of world hunger, so he ordered the platform the CEO was on to be blown up. So Battle Android Trooper ran forward with a bomb, and Flint saw that and shot at the bat with his laser rifle, and it was the Eco Warriors' laser blast that collapsed the CEO's platform. And hanging precariously above a vat of sludge, the CEO pointed his finger angrily directly at Flint and said, You did this to me." And then, just like DC's The Joker, took a swan dive right into the chemical vat. And Flint ran up to save him, but Cobra Commander ordered the plant destroyed, and Flint was knocked to the ground, making this a third origin story for Cesspool. The plant became a hazardous, catastrophic environmental disaster site that the Eco Warriors were charged with scanning and cleaning up. Months later, the Eco Warriors' headquarters was under attack with corrosive chemicals, vipers, and tracked septic tanks. The Eco Warriors had to stand alone against the assault force led by a helmeted Cesspool. The Joe team investigating Cobra's grain freighter hijacking were also left to wonder who trashed Eco Warriors HQ and captured Flint in clean sweep. Cesspool had the two Joes prisoners at his trash site where they were testing the sludge weapons. He picked up clean sweep and belched in his face just in case you didn't know who the bad guy was. Flint was taken away to be put in the brig, but he escaped, and Clean Sweep was put in an old 50s Chevy Deluxe to be used as target practice for the tanks. Clean Sweep took off in the sedan, picking up Flint, and they escaped by toppling some drums onto Cesspool's forces. With the front gate and their freedom in sight, Cesspool used a magnet crane to pick up the Chevy and dump it in a metal crusher. The residual sludge that the septic tanks had fired at the car leaked out and damaged the crushed machine. So Clean Sweep managed to get away, but Flint stayed behind to gather more intelligence. Cesspool then ordered his forces to attack Cobra Island, not to take it over, but as a show of force to gain Cobra Commander's respect and to make him his ally. He didn't tell Flint he was doing this because he hates the human race and everything it stands for. Everyone would fall to Cesspool, but Flint would be the first for messing up Vinny's face. "You may call me Cesspool," he shouted to Cobra Commander, but Cobra Commander said, "No, I'll call you Toxic Refuse." But when Cesspool showed Cobra Commander the power of his toxic sludge, they shook hands as partners in world hunger. In Part 2, the Joes assaulted Cesspool's junkyard and deployed their anti-toxo agents to neutralize Cesspool's sludge and pollution. Cobra's next big idea was to dip Flint in the sludge, but Flint escaped and found Cesspool's sludge factory, where he learned they planned to double-cross Cobra Commander by blowing up a volcano and raining toxic rice on the world and to destroy all of civilization. And just in time, the Joes showed up and dropped a series of eco-warriors and detox canisters inside the volcano to take care of the sludge and to rescue Flint. They converted the sludge into super fertilizer and seeded the world with food. The Infected Island episode started with him destroying redwood trees, and in a battle with the eco-warrior Flint, mutating grasshoppers. This gave him this big idea to keep making giant insects in an attempt to again try to take over the world. Now Cesspool became subservient to Cobra Commander, and they continued working together. Cesspool and the Commander sent their giant insects to invade San Francisco, so the G.I. Joes and eco-warriors had to come in to save them all. However, the mayor surrendered San Francisco to Cesspool. Ozone was captured, and when Flint and Skymate landed at Cobra Base, Cesspool revealed to them that Ozone had been converted into a toxic Joe. So Ozone was a praying mantis human hybrid creature that could spit toxic venom, but it was all reverted again by Clean Sweep's anti-tox formula. In 1991, a Cesspool action figure debuted, complete with his gold, green, purple, and red uniform and equipment. He had a gold chainsaw rifle, gold helmet, purple backpack frame with orange fluid tanks that boasted color-changing battle damage and a weapon that really shoots water. I guess that explains why he looked like a walking super soaker with an attitude. The packaging for Cesspool's figure says that the forces of nature were under attack by Cobra, who are utilizing the most dangerous liquids known to mankind, and through these means, led by Cesspool, Cobra wanted to contaminate the planet's ecosystem and bring civilization to his knees. Cesspool was also part of the eco-warriors line that included Sludge Viper and Toxic Viper on his faction. Cesspool was their leader and their CEO, their chief environmental operative. In 2014, Cesspool would also get a version 2 figure. This figure was released by the G.I. Joe figure subscription service. Now his back tanks were blue and he came with a briefcase full of money, but don't get too excited, it's fake money. The Toxo Zombie here referred to as a Compound Z Trooper was boxed in with the Zombie Initiative box, set for the G.I. Joe convention in Dallas, Texas that year. And this set also included a comic book that told the tale of Flint reactivating the eco-warriors to battle Cobra's Compound Z and their zombified forces. The eco-warriors were sold in Brazil by Estrella as well. Their cesspool was called Poluição, which translates, as you would expect, to the word pollution. The action figure story was that Cesspool and his squad had hijacked the G.I. Joe train and added Arbco aerosol spray cans to the Joe's supply drop. The cans contained concentrated amounts of CFCs that were meant to damage Earth's atmosphere, so eco-warriors had to get them somewhere safe. To sum up Cesspool, we have to turn to one of his quotes where it said, "I will make the world as ugly and nasty as I am." And with that, that's a wrap on this one, my friends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and you'll be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this every week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.